안녕하세요. 김원장의 인사이트입니다. 오늘은 지난 6월 13일 주주총회에서 일론머스크가 거의 1시간가량 프레젠테이션을 했는데요. 중요한 얘기를 매우 많이 했습니다. 급여 패키지가 압도적인 지지로 통과된 것에 대해 춤을 추면서 나오기도 했고요. 전기차 생산과 자율주행, 그리고 로보택시 출시, 4680 배터리, 그리고 인공지능과 옵티머스 로봇에 대해서도 구체적인 전략을 공개했습니다. 캐시우드의 아크인베스트에서 로보택시가 성공하여 주가가 크게 상승하는 것으로 보고서를 냈는데요. 일론 머스크는 옵티머스 로봇이 생산 라인에 본격적으로 서게 되면 매출액이 아주 크게 증가할 것으로 강조했습니다. 물론 아크인베스트 보고서에서는 옵티머스와 메가팩 등의 수익은 제외하였다고 전제를 하였는데, 일론 머스크는 오히려 이런 부분에 중점을 두고 발언하였습니다. 지금부터 영상을 보겠습니다. 이 영상은 1시간가량이었는데요. 박수치는 부분과 광고를 삭제하면서 약 45분 정도로 압축됐습니다. 앞부분 10분가량은 저와 함께 보시면서 중간중간 저의 의견이나 생각을 멘트 드리도록 하겠습니다. 그 후로는 여러분들 혼자 보시는데 끝까지 보기를 권합니다. 귀한 얘기가 너무너무 많습니다. 일론 머스크가 춤을 추면서 저도 찡찡이시고요. 얼마나 신났으면.
Hey guys, welcome to the Tesla shareholder meeting. And I just want to start off by saying, hot damn, I love you guys.
사실은 그 투표에서 기관들은 한 절반 정도만 찬성표를 던졌거든요. 근데 개인 투자자들은 90% 이상의 찬성표를 던졌어요. 그래서 종합적으로 한 77% 찬성표를 던지면서 통과가 됐으니 개인 투자자들이 얼마나 사랑스럽겠어요, 그죠? 저래도 막 춤이 덩실덩실 나올 것 같습니다, 저라도.
Yeah. But we have the most awesome shareholder base. I mean, it's just incredible. Any public company, it's incredible. Wow. Sort of shareholder meeting here to recap the achievements of the company and tell you about where we're going. And it's, I think it's incredible. I think we're not just opening a new chapter for Tesla, we're starting a new book.
여기서 새로운 챕터를 여는 게 아니고 새로운 책을 시작하는 것 같다. 이게 무슨 말이냐면, 새로운 챕터는 하던 일이 연장되는 거잖아요. 하던 일 중에 새로운 어떤 일이 연장되는 그런 개념인데, 새로운 책을 시작한다는 것은 세상에 없는 새로운 세계를 열고 있다는 뭐 그런 의미로 새로운 책을 시작한다고 표현한 것 같습니다.
Those of you who have been following Tesla closely understand, like you get it, you know, and so like the important thing is you get it. I mean, it's where things are going. I think is just going to be absolutely mind blowing. You know, we're obviously making great progress in solving the sustainable energy problem, you know, with electric vehicles, with stationary storage, with solar. The value of the company, autonomy is just such a mind-blowing thing that, like I said, you guys understand, but I think most of the world does not yet understand.
그 일론 머스크가 고정식 그러니까 기가팩 그거 있잖아, 그죠? 그러니까 우리나라는 저런 게 사실 저렇게 외국만큼 큰 필요는 없는데, 미국이나 캐나다나 호주처럼 땅덩어리가 큰 나라도 있잖아요. 이런 나라들은 가끔 따로 넓게 흩어져 사는 경우가 많거든요. 그런 곳에서는 태양광 발전을 해서, 태양광 발전을 하면 그 전기를 저장해야 되잖아요. 이 전력 저장 장치 ESS라고 하는데, 이 전력 저장 장치가 기가팩이야. 그러면 그것만 있고 스타링크까지 있으면 따로 떨어진 곳에서도 전혀 문제가 없는 거죠. 뭐 그런 걸 다 알면서 자기는 그게 굉장히 중요하다고 생각한다, 이렇게 발언하고 있습니다.
So I'll be like, have you driven our car? Have you tried self-driving? You know, the version 12.3, and they're like, oh no, okay, well.
여기 앞부분이 좀 잘못 잘린 것 같긴 한데요. 이제 앞부분 전제가 저거였어요. 월가에 있는 또는 뉴욕에 있는 큰 투자자들, 부자들한테 이런 말을 한다는 거지. 그 사람들이 지금 반신반의하고 있으면, 우리 테슬라 자율주행을 해봤냐? 그 사람들은 다 기사가 있잖아요. 기사를 두고 운전하니까 자율주행도 무의미한 거지. 근데 이제 자율주행 운전을 시도해 본 적이 있냐? 해봐라. 정말 놀랐다. 근데 그대로 해보지도 않고 안 돼. 뭐 이렇게 부정적으로 얘기한다는 겁니다. 결국은
You should try it. That would be a good thing to do. And if you just plot the points on the curve of how well autonomy is progressing, and just believe the curve, it's headed towards unsupervised full self-driving very quickly at an exponential pace. If you just, yeah, it's. I mean, yeah. So. It's really as simple as that. And in fact, I'd invite you to just do it personally. Just say, okay, with each release, how many miles do you drive before you have to intervene? It's like literally that simple. You'll see it. There's a big improvement, and it looks like an exponential. So, and it's very clear that will actually go to the point where it is actually far safer.
처음에는 뭐 예를 들면 어떤 상황이 발생했을 때 개입을 했는데 1시간마다 운전에 개입을 했다면 나중에는 한 달에 한 번씩 운전에 개입을 한다면 나중에는 1년이 지나도록 한 번도 개입 안 한다는 거죠. 그게 기술력이 어떤 기술 문명이 진보하잖아요. 기술이 발달하잖아요. 거기서 또 발전을 하고 발전된 상태에 또 발전을 하니까 이 발전 속도가 기하급수적으로 성능이 좋아진다, 뭐 그런 의미를 얘기하고 있습니다.
Than a person driving the car. And I have some insight into the next releases because we've got basically for every release that's on the road we kind of see what the next generation release is and a little bit about the release after that. So we have some insight into where it's going and it's really amazing. No question whatsoever that will far exceed human safety. I think I have mentioned this, but like sometimes it's like helpful to sort of reiterate and connect some of the dots because sometimes people wonder, well, how do you go from this big fleet to actually monetizing the fleet in an autonomous situation? And it's actually a combination of it's like Airbnb and Uber to some degree. So like there'll be some cars that Tesla owns itself, it's kind of like an Uber fashion. But then for the fleet that is owned by our customers, it will be like an Airbnb thing. You can add or subtract your car.
이제 처음에는 일론머스크가 차를 그 사이버 캡이라 그래서 로보택시 전용 택시를 만들어서 사업을 본사에서 할 거고요. 나중에 되면 이제 테슬라 차를 가진 사람이 에어비앤비처럼 집 가진 사람이 숙박업에 등록하는 것처럼 내 차량을 가진 사람이 로보택시 사업에 내 차도 등록해 달라 그러면 그때부터는 이제 거기에 콜이 오면 내 차가 알아서 운전을 해서 지 스스로 가서 승객을 태우고 돈을 벌어 온다는 거죠. 예, 에어비앤비처럼 뭐 그렇게 되는 겁니다.
To the fleet whenever you want. So you can say like I'm going away for a week. At just one tap on your Tesla app, your car gets added to the fleet and it just makes money for you while you're gone. Yeah. So you can say you can add it to the fleet for a few hours, for a few days, for a few weeks. Whenever you want it back, you can say come back and car will come right back. And I'm highly confident that it will far exceed the value of, like the revenue made by the owner of the car will far exceed the actual monthly payment. And then Tesla will obviously take a rev share on that. But most of the money.
야, 이대로만 된다면 그죠? 얘가 돌아다니면서 벌어온 돈이 차를 유지하는 거나 할부금을 내는 것보다 훨씬 초과한다면 신나겠죠. 차 안 살 사람 어디가 있어요. 그죠? 아, 놀랍습니다.
Money will go to the owner of the car. And this is actually going to work. This is what will happen. So I mean, mark my words. This is simply a matter of time. Now, admittedly, I'm a little optimistic sometimes. So I don't have complete lack of self-awareness. But if I wasn't optimistic, this wouldn't exist. This factory wouldn't exist.
아, 저는 이 말이 너무 좋더라고요. 본인이 낙관적이기 때문에 이 일을 시작했고 여기까지 왔고 자기가 낙관적으로 생각했기 때문에 어려운 일을 과정을 다 겪어서 지금까지 공장을 만들고 여기까지 왔다는 거죠. 본인이 막 근심하고 걱정하고 그래서 실행에 못 옮겼다면 여기까지 못 왔다는 얘기인데 과거에 일론머스크가 인터뷰한 영상 중에 저런 게 있어요. 또 모델 3가 성공할 줄 알았냐, 테슬라가 성공할 줄 알았냐, 그러니까 자기는 성공할 줄 몰랐대요. 실패할 수도 있다고 생각했대요. 근데 그 앵커가 그런데 왜 계속 하고 있냐? 그러니까 제가 아니면 누가 하겠냐? 누군가는 해야 되는 일이기 때문에 하고 있다. 이 사람은 이제 보통 우리는 개인을 생각하잖아요. 나의 뭐 안녕, 나의 수익 뭐 이런 걸 생각하지만 이 사람은 인류, 문명 이런 걸 생각하면서 계속 말을 하고 행보도 그렇게 하고 있거든요. 대단합니다. 일론 머스크로 인해서 인류의 문명이 한 단계 더 진일보하는 것 같습니다. 왜냐면 로보택시가 일론 머스크가 아니면 훨씬 늦게 왔을 거야. 우주여행도 그 스타쉽 스페이스X 있잖아요, 그죠? 펠컨 9 막 우주 갔다 오는 거. 걔도 일론 머스크가 아니면 훨씬 늦었을 것 같습니다. 왜냐면 그 저거 우주 왕복선 포기했었잖아요, 나사에서. 그걸 본인이 다시 한 거잖아. 어쨌든 뭐 대단한 사람인 건 확실합니다.
You know, that's what my brother, who's awesome, he's here, just got re-elected. No, sorry, those things. So, it's like a little anecdote. Like when we were kids in school, my brother would tell me the wrong time for the bus so that I wouldn't miss the bus. And then I'd be upset with him, like, why'd you tell me the bus was going to come earlier than it was? And he's like, well, because otherwise you'd be late for the bus. This is an actual thing that would happen.
동생한테도 그죠? 버스가 8시까지 온다 그러면 7시 50분까지 온다 뭐 이렇게 잘못 알려줬다는 거죠. 예, 그거에 대해서 화를 얘기하면 결국은 그러니까 늦지 않을 수 있었다. 그래서 그게 꼭 탓할 문제는 아니다. 뭐 이렇게 얘기를 하고
So
있습니다.
I guess I've been sort of pathologically optimistic from birth. But that's the reason all this stuff is happening anyway. It's like I got to be somewhat pathologically optimistic. But I do deliver in the end. That's the important thing.
이 사람이 뭘 한다고 했는데 계속 제때 못 지키고 늦어졌지만 결국은 다 전달했어. 그게 중요하다고 얘기하는 거잖아요. 예를 들면 사이버 트럭도 2019년인가 이미 나온다 그랬고요. 그러고 그 자율주행도 2019년이면 동부에서 서부까지 차가 혼자 횡단한다고 막 그랬고요. 여러 가지 말이 앞서긴 했는데 세미 트럭도 오래됐죠. 근데 그 시간은 못 지키더라도 결국은 해냈다는 거지. 결국은 나하고 실행에 성공했다는 겁니다. 저도 대단하게 생각합니다. 그래서 이 사람이 말하니까 로보택시 부분도 그렇고 모델 2 저가형 차량도 그렇고 그다음에 이제 옵티머스 내년부터 테슬라 공장에서 생산 라인에서 1000대 이상이 일을 한다고 하거든요. 그게 또 오류를 다 잡고 나서 다른 공장들에도 판매할 수 있다면 그 매출이 어마어마해지겠죠. 하여간 뭐 천재적인 건 확실합니다.
For ARK Invest, I'd recommend reading the ARK Invest analysis. That's the most accurate. There may be more accurate ones, but the most accurate sort of analysis of the potential of autonomy. The most accurate that I'm aware of is Kathy Wood's ARK Invest. And if I recall correctly, they predicted somewhere over a $5 trillion valuation for Tesla just based on vehicle autonomy, not counting Optimus.
캐시우드의 아크 인베스트먼트가 2029년에 테슬라 주가가 $2,600까지 간다. 지금으로부터 15배 상승한다. 뭐 이렇게 얘기를 했잖아요. 근데 일론 머스크는 그보다 더 크게 생각하고 있어요. 옵티머스가 저게 된다면. 캐시우드의 보고서에는 옵티머스는 제외한다고 돼 있었어. 본인들이 판단할 역량 밖에 그거였겠죠. 어찌됐든 그래서 일론 머스크는 그 캐시우드의 보고서를 보고 쉽진 않겠지만 가능할 것 같다 이렇게 언급을 했습니다.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think just based on vehicle autonomy, we can 10x, more than 10x the value of the company. I believe that's what will happen. Yeah, no, it's just what do you know? It's 4:20 p.m. Just noticed that. So I think that's actually, I think that's pretty accurate. But it actually gets way crazier when you think about the Optimus robot, which is really a humanoid robot that is intended to, be able to do anything you want it to do, to be, your companion. It can be at your house. It can sort of babysit your kids. It could teach them, be a teacher. It can do factory stuff. I think that the ultimate ratio of, say, how many super useful humanoid helper droids do you want? Like, who doesn't want a C-3PO, but a C-3PO plus R2-D2 plus...
C-3PO하고 R2-D2 스타워즈에 나오는 그 로봇이잖아요. 굉장히 정겨웠어, 그죠? 띠뚱띠뚱 걸어가고, C-3PO는 이렇게 걸어가고, R2는 바퀴로 이렇게 쭉 굴러가고, 원통 모양으로, R2-D2.
plus.
결국은 그렇게 될 거라는 거죠.
I think everyone in the world is going to want one. Like, literally everyone. And then there will be, obviously, robots in industry, making stuff. And so, I think the ratio of humanoid robots to humans will probably be at least 2 to 1, something like that. 1 to 1 for sure, so, which means like somewhere on the order of 10 billion humanoid robots. So then it's like, okay, well, let's say, you kind of make, let's say the build rate is, I think the build rate will be probably something ultimately like 1 billion a year, humanoid robots, like actually. And if Tesla just has a 10% share of that, and it might be.
그 10억 대 중에 10%만 테슬라가 점유율을 가질 거다. 1억 대인가요?
A lot more than 10%, like 100 million Optimus units a year. For reference, the auto industry is roughly 100 million vehicles. I think we could make one for a cost of maybe, at really high scale, of about $10,000. It's smaller, it'll be less expensive than a car. So, and I think sell for $20,000 something. This is at large scale volume.
$10,000나 $20,000 정도.
Tesla would basically make about $1 trillion
그 정도면
of
구독으로
profit a year.
하면 사용할 수 있죠, 집에.
If the price earnings multiple is, say, I don't know, 20 or 25, something like that, that would mean a $20 trillion market cap from Optimus alone. And probably 5 to 10.
옵티머스 단독 시가총액이 20조 달러. 20조 달러면 얼마인지 아세요? 2경이야, 2경. 여기다 1,000원 곱해야 되는 거잖아. 2,000조가 넘어가는 거잖아. 그러니까 2경이야. 야, 지난번에 옵티머스를 뺀, 캐시우드의 아크인베스트의 옵티머스 뺀 시가총액이 1경 4,500억인가 그랬거든요. 얘만 2경이 넘어간다는 거예요.
From autonomous vehicles.
자율주행차의 10배.
Like, I think it's actually conceivable. It's within the realm of possibility for Tesla to achieve a valuation 10 times that of the most valuable company today. So when I say this is like we're starting a new book, I mean, it's going to be the best book. Next level. Next level. We need to make sure these robots are nice to us and,
자, 여기까지는 같이 봤고요. 지금부터는 여러분들 혼자 보시는데 끝까지 보기를 권합니다. 야, 정말 놀라운 얘기를 계속 많이 했어요. 자, 테슬라 주주 여러분들 성공 투자를 기원합니다.
We need to make sure these robots are nice to us and, that's very important. Yeah. So anyway, so with that, let me get into the presentation. Blah, 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 blah. I think it might be worth us just putting a word limit on future shareholder Tesla proposals. It's like you can't have like a novel length, It's kind of like you can't have a whole novel as a Tesla proposal. So anyway, as you can see, our impact is accelerating. We're starting to make a real noticeable dent in carbon emissions. So we're really, making a lot of progress towards achieving our goal of sustainability. And one of the effects of autonomy is going to be an even greater effect on carbon emissions, because I suspect that we'll go from passenger cars having about 10 hours of usage per week, about an hour and a half per day, to probably a third of the hours in the week, maybe 50, 55 hours, which means the same car will be used 5 times more often. So you need a certain amount of resources to make the car, but it'll have 5 times the usage, in my opinion. I think that's quite likely, which will be an even more dramatic impact on carbon emissions. So, we care a lot about sustainable manufacturing. Our factories are beautiful. Like, you walk around the factory, it's actually, contrary to these, like, what you read in the press, it's like a good vibe in the factory. Like, people are smiling and happy. It's like, it's nice. Yeah. So we do care. We actually do care a lot at Tesla about doing the right thing, and we're not going to be perfect, but we do care a lot about doing the right thing. So our vehicles are water efficient, energy efficient. We try whenever possible to use renewables for powering the factory, and do our best to do the right thing. Our batteries are lasting a lot longer. I got too many things in my hand. Anyway, the batteries are lasting a lot longer, which is good. Safety is good in the factory. We're improving the affordability of EVs. Model Y is comparable to a BMW X3, but its actual cost of ownership on a monthly basis is much lower. We were number 1 in EVs globally last year. So, yeah. Congrats to the Tesla team on making 6 million vehicles all time. So the Tesla fleet is really becoming very substantial. I mean, it's going to be 7 million vehicles by the end of this year, over 7 million vehicles. So, our factory in Fremont is currently the highest volume auto factory in North America. So, and we broke the prior production record from when it was NUMMI. So it's actually pretty wild that we have a giant car factory in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's not exactly the cheapest place to have a car factory. It's like that in the Swiss Alps or something, But we still managed to make great cars at high volume, and that's a testament to the great team we've got in Fremont. So congrats to the Fremont team. And a lot of people were saying the Cybertruck is like fake; it's never going to come out. Now we're shipping a lot of Cybertrucks. We hit a weekly record of 1,300. I think that with the Cybertruck, it really is something special. Like, people sometimes have like different opinions on the Cybertruck, but if you really want to know if something is cool, if it's a great product, like, show it to a kid, okay? Like, no filter, okay? The kid's got like no filter, like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, something like that, or even 3-year-old, and say, which car do you like? Cybertruck. So it's like, that's how you know. It's finally something that it just looks like the future. And it drives so well. It's comfortable. It's just a fantastic product. I think it's our best product, and it's a lot of innovation. It's got a 48 volts low voltage system. Finally, instead of 12 volts, 800 volt drivetrain, the world's biggest castings. It's bulletproof. All the cool things can outpull a F350 diesel, which is a very impressive truck, and it can it can do a quarter mile faster than a Porsche 911 while towing a Porsche 911. So that's insane. Yeah. And if you think about it, like how often do companies make products that move your heart, that are really special. It's so rare, and I think this is one of them. So, yeah. And we launched the upgraded 3, which is actually a fantastic car. I recommend trying it out. It's really a great car. And it's only $216 after gas savings, like total cost of ownership. It's basically $200 and something when compared to a gasoline car, a similar gasoline car. So it's really a great deal and a fun car. And the performance, Model 3 performance is, well, it's like, you know, faster than Porsche 911. It's just a great car. So, yeah. And of course, Model Y became the best-selling vehicle globally. And this is something that we predicted. You know, I think I said in like 2022, Model Y would be the biggest car in the world by dollar volume sales, and at 2023 it would be the biggest in unit volume, and it was. And again this year it will be the best-selling car on earth. So, yeah. Obviously we've got the Tesla Semi. You know, we're in low volume production of the Tesla Semi, and just last week I approved the plans for volume production of the Tesla Semi. So we're going to make a lot of semi-trucks. We're going to start off with, it's something, I think it'll actually move the needle financially. It's not like it's not a small thing. And the thing about like commercial vehicles is that companies that use them are super objective. It's not like, it's actually, I mean, obviously we're going to make it have cool style and be an awesome car, but for commercial vehicles, the companies that make the buying decisions, they just look at it and say, like, what are the numbers? Like, is this cost less to transport or cost more to transport than say, a diesel truck? And the thing is that the economics are much better than a diesel truck. It's kind of basically a no-brainer. If you're a transport company, you don't use the Tesla electric Semi, you're just losing money. Why would you do that? Do you not like money? Okay. But if you do like money, then I recommend using the Tesla Semi. And so I think this is really going to actually sell at a scale that people will be surprised at, and will actually move the needle financially and do a lot of good. Also for CO2 and sustainability, because semis are driven all the time, actually even at much smaller numbers, they have a very big effect on total carbon emissions solved. Obviously we've got some new products that we're working on under the covers. And I think these are, I think these are going to be pretty special. So, you know, some of them, I think people maybe at first may think, oh, it's not going to be that amazing, but just wait, it will be. Our supercharger network is continuing to grow. You know, rumors of the death of the supercharger are greatly exaggerated. We are in fact continuing to grow the supercharger network significantly. In fact, this year I think we'll deploy more superchargers this year that are actually working than the rest of industry combined. Just FYI. Now we are going to be more careful about, like, you know, the capital efficiency of where we deploy superchargers. But for sure, any place that has congestion, any sort of missing parts of the map that we're missing, we're going to put the superchargers there. So even for the remainder of the year, we expect to spend about $500 million on supercharger deployment. So it's very significant, and it'd be a well-spent $500 million. This is actually not showing a bunch of new markets that will be opening up later this year and next. So we're obviously we want Tesla to be worldwide, and there's still a lot of countries that we, you know, have 0 to very few Teslas, and we want Tesla everywhere. So there are a lot of new markets that we're going to open up later this year and next. We're also opening the superchargers to other companies with the that's the adapter to the old somewhat clunky connector. But our goal is to be helpful to other car companies. So any other car companies that are going electric, we do want to be helpful to them with our supercharger network. So we're providing them with adapters and enabling them to have access to the Tesla supercharging network because we think it's better to do that than to create a walled garden that inhibits EV growth. And we're also innovating a lot in battery production with the 4680 that's built right here. It's a hard problem, you know. Like there are entire companies that just make battery cells. That's all they do. But we're making good progress. Like all the Cybertrucks that you see use the Tesla 4680 cell. We have a clear path to the 4680 being, we think, probably the most competitive cell from a manufacturing efficiency standpoint. And so it is a hard problem, I have to say. There's quite a lot of brain damage required to be good at cell manufacturing. It's like a brain damage high. But I think it does give Tesla resilience in the face of if there are changes in the, I don't know, geopolitical situation somehow. But it's good to have some independence in cell manufacturing. And we're making steady progress, and we also have the cathode refinery, which you can see behind the main factory. So you can sort of see it in the picture there. That's the cathode refinery, and then we've got the lithium refinery in South Texas. And so we're just making sure we've kind of got the pieces of the puzzle. If you were to look at sort of a video of how Tesla does, say, cathode and lithium refining and how the rest of industry does it, it's night and day. I mean, you can sort of eat off the floor in the Tesla refinery, and I would not recommend doing so in the others. We're definitely going very, very vertical here. But I think this is it's a wise investment that will pay off more than people realize. So I don't think this thing's working. So this year, we're also on track to complete a massive number of energy deployments. So that is a gigantic increase in deployment capability. We seem to be tracking to sort of a 200% to 300% year-over-year growth in energy storage deployment in stationary pack. So it's giant. And the limiting factor really is being able to build more megapacks and build more Powerwalls. So we're ramping up production of the Powerwall 3, which is really a game changer for at the personal level. The Powerwall 3, it usually takes about 3 iterations of any given technology to really for it to be something where it's like, okay, now we're really hitting the sweet spot. So Powerwall 3 is like an epic product. The Megapack is also, I'd call it sort of iteration 2 of the Megapack is also an epic product. With the Megapack 3, which is, I don't know, probably a couple years away, we'll start actually absorbing more and more of the substation of the sort of power electronics. So I sort of think you want to get to the point with the Megapack where you can literally just take the high voltage power lines and plug them in. There's no substation. We just plug them in. Just drop it down and plug it in. And now it works. Which is like mind-blowing for the utility industry, by the way. Like, they're like, what? Yeah, you just plug the wires in and it'll work for very high voltage. So that I think is actually going to be a major. So this is anyway. So yeah, this is great. Excellent work by the energy storage team. Services and other are also looking good. So we're actually now making money on the services and other stuff. this is kind of a big deal. Right? Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, and Tesla's obviously way more than a car company. We do a lot of software at Tesla. About, I don't know, roughly half or a very huge percentage of the engineering we do is actually software engineering. So Tesla's, I'd say, as much a software company as it is a hardware company. This is a very big deal because car companies are not software companies normally. So this matters a lot. So things like our Orbiter software for energy storage, all of the software that controls the cars, the megapacks, the power walls, the solar, obviously for AI and full self-driving are a big deal, insurance, service and collision. That Tesla also writes a lot of software internally that helps, that like we call like the Tesla operating system internally, that is head and shoulders above what any other company has. I think probably better than any Fortune 500 company. The Tesla internal software is just way better. So it's just far more than what people normally think of as a car company. And Tesla is also the leader in real-world AI. So there's really, this is a big deal. Like Tesla is ahead of Google, Meta, OpenAI, anyone on real-world software, actually taking in video and making decisions based on video. No one is even close. And it's getting better, I say, with each passing month, if not each passing week. So, yeah. And it's also worth noting that Tesla is actually pretty good at chip design. So the AI inference chip that was designed by Tesla that's in cars, we had sort of our hardware 3 AI inference cars made over the past year have the hardware 4. We've just completed design on hardware 5, which we're now calling AI 5, because it really is. There still actually is not a chip from NVIDIA or from, and I have a lot of respect for NVIDIA, from any company that we would prefer to put in our car that is better than what we have in the car. So we started from scratch in chip design, just as we started from scratch in AI software, and have the best real-world AI software and the best AI inference chip in the world from nothing. So this is, a big deal. The capability of the chips in the car is dramatic. Like, I mean, right now, all the cars are actually training. Like we have hardware 4 run hardware 3 in emulation mode. So we'll continue to make significant progress in hardware 3, but later this year we'll actually bifurcate, continue working on hardware 3, so on training on hardware 3, but then do separate training on hardware 4. That'll be the sort of training cluster that we're building at the south side of the Gigafactory, and that'll be dedicated hardware 4 video and inference. And so the hardware 4 has cameras that have about 4 or 5 times better resolution, and depending on how you count the sort of hardware 4, it's about anywhere from 3 to 8 times better than hardware 3. But everything you're seeing thus far is just hardware 3, and we still have a long way to go before we reach the limits of hardware 3. So hardware 3, I think, will do amazing things, but hardware 4, I think, will probably do about 5 times better. Then hardware 5, which comes out in about 18 months or so, is 10 times more capable than hardware 4. It's like so if you know NVIDIA hardware, it's sort of a B200 class computer. That's like this. So what we'll just progressively do is improve how many nines of reliability the car gets. And then of course that will go into Optimus as well. So the same chip will go into hardware 4 will go into is an Optimus. Hardware 5, AI 5, which we're calling switching from hardware 5 to AI 5, will be an Optimus and in all cars in about 18 months. And it's really just a staggering amount of compute, and it's very power efficient compute. So it's got to be, because if you're in a mobile application like a humanoid robot or a car, you can't just be sucking down 10 kilowatts, like you can in a data center. So you've got to be very power efficient. So the sort of hardware 3 and 4 are only a few hundred watts. Yeah, this is hard. Now hardware 5 will be able to go probably up to about 700 or 800 watts, but it'll power fluctuate contingent upon the complexity of the scene that it is in. So if it is in a parking lot stationary, it's like don't have to think very much, just like a person. Like if you're in a complicated traffic scenario, you've got to think a lot more than if you're just cruising along, on an empty road. But something that I think is potentially interesting down the road is, like at some point the Tesla fleet I think will probably be, over 100 million vehicles. And if each vehicle has a kilowatt of efficient inference compute, I think there's an sort of an Amazon Web Services, AWS type opportunity, because if you've got 100 million vehicles with a kilowatt of efficient inference compute, you've got 100 gigawatts of compute. Like 100 gigawatts of compute is a lot, and it's distributed all over the world. So when the car is not in autonomous mode, which I think probably is, or doing robotaxi work maybe 50, 60 hours a week, but about 100 hours a week, it's not, it's probably stationary. So there's 100 hours of 100 gigawatts of inference compute, which I think we should use. Why not? When people looked at Amazon, which started out obviously as an online bookseller, and it's on, has grown to be like this incredible place where you can buy anything, and then Amazon Web Services, like, well, they got all these computers that only really see peak usage sometimes, but what are they going to do when it's not peak usage? And sometimes the Amazon servers are down at like 10%. So that's when they said, well, let's do Amazon Web Services. And then Amazon Web Services became more valuable than the entire rest of Amazon. And I think there's some kind of opportunity there that's pretty significant for Tesla down the road. Again, that's really, nobody's really factoring that in. But I think that actually will be quite significant. We also are no longer compute constrained for training. So I check in with the team. It's like, is there anything we could do to improve the pace of progress with respect to training and inference? And currently that is not the limiting factor. In fact, the limiting factor right now is that the amount of miles between interventions is so long that it takes quite a while to figure out which version is better than the other version, because none of them are requiring any interventions. So it's like, if you start getting to like thousands of miles between interventions, or you like 10,000 miles to get an intervention, then the average person only drives about 10,000 miles in a year. And if it's in an urban environment, and the average speed is 20 miles an hour, so our professional test drivers get pretty bored, frankly. They're like, okay, I drove all week and there was no intervention. Like the highlight of the week would be like, yes, an intervention, finally. It's like getting to that point. So this is where actually having a giant fleet is extremely important, because we can deploy a new FSD model and run it in shadow mode and see how well it performs. Compare how the human drives the car versus the new self-driving build, and then analyze that delta in shadow mode, like the shadow knows, or doesn't know, as the case may be, and then be able to assess by getting billions of miles very quickly with the giant fleet. Like that, basically, that data engine is incredibly helpful. Like actually, it's not possible to solve the self-driving problem without having millions of vehicles on the road. So, so that's actually is like figuring out clever ways to test how good the next build, FSD build is actually the limiting factor right now. And then of course, like I said, we are building another training data center right here, which will be dedicated to hardware 4 training. So we'll bifurcate hardware 3 and hardware 4 training later this year. We'll keep improving hardware 3, but we're going to uncork the full capability of hardware 4 as well. And I think most people here have tried out version 12. We did say like unsupervised full self-driving would be version 12. So we are actually just keeping the version arbitrarily at 12, and then like calling it 12.4, 12.3, 12.4, 12.5. But it's actually really like version 13, version 14. But anyway, this is an arbitrary designation. So 12.4 is actually like a whole different version than 12.3, and 12.5 is a whole different version than 12.4. So you'll see really giant improvements, I think sometimes factor of 10 improvements between successive versions. And then, as I mentioned, the way it'll work for the existing fleet is you'll be able to add or subtract your car to the fleet as you'd like. Will also be Tesla-owned cars. So it'll be a combination of like Uber plus Airbnb. But it'll be pretty wild that there'll be a software update, and then the whole fleet suddenly becomes accessible. It's like suddenly you've got 7 million, 10 million cars that can, ultimately tens of millions of cars that can do autonomous driving, and instead of being used 10 hours a week, can be used 50 or 60 hours a week. So it's pretty wild to just be in Palo Alto with a bunch of cubes, and then a humanoid robot just walks past. We've made a massive amount of progress with Optimus in a short period of time, from someone pretending to be a robot dancing in a suit, to a pretty hodgepodgey robot, to a robot that is actually doing useful tasks in the factory today. So we have 2 Optimus robots in our Fremont factory that are doing basically this task, which is taking cells off the end of the line and placing them in a shipping container. And yeah, we actually have quite a few of these cruising around our offices in Palo Alto. And I think we've got kind of like one major hardware revision, which should be done by end of this year or early next, and then we'll move into a limited production next year of Optimus. Limited production for use in our factories, where we'll test out the product, kind of, as I say, sort of eat our own dog food or whatever the electronic equivalent of that is. But I think like next year, my prediction is next year we'll have over 1,000, maybe a few thousand Optimus robots working at Tesla, and things are going to scale up very rapidly from there. We'll iron out the bugs. Like the degree of autonomy will be radically better. You'll just literally be able to talk to it and say, please do this task, or I'm going to show you something, now do the thing that I'm showing you. Get to the point where it can watch a video of something like a person and then learn just by looking at that video and do that task. So, yeah. So really it's going to be quite something. And I'm confident of the prediction that there will be more of us to humans will be greater than 1-to-1. So that there'll be, more than 10 billion humanoid robots in the world, probably 20 or more. And Tesla's going to be by far the leader in that. You're seeing a lot of robot startups, but I think it's actually very challenging to do Optimus as a robot startup, because what we found to make Optimus work, we've had to design design from first principles, from scratch, every part of the robot. So the motor, the gearbox, the sensors, the power electronics, the communication system, everything had to be done from scratch. We found that there's basically nothing, there's no supply chain. So even though there are many electric motors made in the world, there's no supply chain for the types of motors and sensors and gearboxes that are needed for a humanoid robot. I mean, what you're seeing here is our current generation hand and arm, but our next which has 11 degrees of freedom. Our next generation has 22 degrees of freedom. It will be able to play the piano. So it's really like, wow. Now, of course, like I said, we need to make sure we don't have the Terminator scenario. That's very important. Safety of the humanoid robot will be very important. But because it requires so much ground-up design, designing every motor, gearbox, sensor, power electronics from scratch, it's very hard for a startup to, if not impossible, for a startup to replicate that. But at Tesla, we have the world's best electrical engineering. I think we've got the world's best mechanical engineering for gearboxes and for electric motors, power electronics. We have the resources to do that. It applies quite well. And then you also have to have the brain. You need a power efficient inference computer, which we've got for the car, and we'll be using an Optimus. You need AI, you need to be the best in real world AI, and Tesla's the best in real world AI. So you need all of these, you need a very strong hand of cards in order to make a compelling robot. And then you also need to be very good at scale manufacturing. So in order to have the robot not cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars, in order to make it cost like $10,000 or $20,000, you actually need to design for manufacturing and be very good at manufacturing. And in my experience, prototypes are easy compared to volume manufacturing. Prototypes are easy, production is hard, relatively speaking. So Tesla has the production capability, it has the engineering capability, and it has the AI hardware and software capability. And even the most optimistic estimates that I've seen for Optimus, the optimist, I think undercount the magnitude of what this robot will be able to do. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, I agree with the Ark and Best analysis that autonomous transport is called sort of a $5 to $7 trillion market cap situation. Optimus, I think, is a literally $25 trillion market cap situation. So. Now, I don't want to trivialize what's necessary to get there. I mean, it's an immense amount of work that is required to get there, like super difficult. But we are moving very fast down that road, and we're going to make it happen. So, thank you.